Hello Moonlight Army, welcome to another episode of DRAYZERA Uncensored. This time, on my travels, I am currently sitting on a sofa in the house that inhabits marvellous poets such as Gemma Baker, James Donnelly, and Alex. I actually have no idea what her last name is, but that doesn't matter, that's immaterial. But anywho. Yes, I am here today and I'm going to do some podcasting for you. Hit the music! Oh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Chamber of Mayhem! Are you ready to rumble? Moonlight Army! This is my time now to flash you on uncensored DRAYZERA! This is my time now to flash you on uncensored DRAYZERA Uncensored! DRAYZERA Uncensored! Right, we are in a serious situation right now, and this is to do with the left-wing agenda and the right-wing agenda, not just in the world of politics, but in society in general. Let me explain. So, right-wing politics has been rampant for so many centuries now. Right-wing politics has been around since the days of the Roman Empire, the Egyptian times. Flippin' hell, it's just rampant as hell. As a result of this, we are in the forefront of a disaster. The disaster being that we are going to have so much violence within the next 5 years, and even more. And that's probably me being generous, to be honest. So yeah, I'm scared. I'm really scared. And let me explain why I'm scared. Recent footage of left-wing people punching limos, punching Nazis, which, by the way, while you can see a justification for it, you can. I'm not saying it's quote-unquote the wrong thing to do, not at all. But obviously you get the right, with obviously Donald Trump being the leader of the right-wing movement, because he is, pardon me, he is the President of the United Flippin' States of America, and he is mother truckin' rich, and he is so right-wing. He's the leader of it, and he wants to build walls in flippin' Mexico, he wants to do all this, all that. Oh my days. This is absolutely manic. And so, what is happening is that the left and right, they all want to incite violence on one another. They do. And because they all have such different opinions, which obviously you can understand because of their spectrum within their mindset and their opinions, right? The massive problem I have with that is that it's not going to solve anything. Come on. Violence never solves violence, right? Seriously. You're just going to create more hate. And we just want love. And the only way we're going to do that is by having discussions, chatter, real good debate in this, and to educate one another, okay? Right? Because people from both sides, please don't be triggered or disclaimed or be angered at me, sorry. Both sides need education. Not everybody, but a percentage of both really need to educate each other in their views, because they need to see it from perspectives. Of course, there is zero justification for people to be Nazis and be proud of it. There is no justification of being Islamophobic. There is no justification of being homophobic, etc., in my opinion. But this needs education to the right. Because you need to think of it like this. For so many years and centuries, the right-wing politics have been rampant and they have so much funding. Even today, when you've got in England, we've got Britain First, we've got UKIP. In all other countries, you've got right-wing politicians and right-wing groups getting more and more and more money. It's no surprise that they have the funding. Therefore, they've got the power. Left-wing groups, overall, they're a minuscule number in terms of finances. But our voice is getting louder and louder due to social media, and the right wing are scared. But violence is not the answer, people. Violence isn't the answer. We need everyone to talk. We need people to sit down and chat. And I'm going to go into another topic here. Milo Yiannopoulos, right? Now, I don't know if I pronounced his name right or whatever, but I'm not happy with him not able to have debates with people who want to discuss his opinions with their opinions, right? Recently, his talks in universities and seminars, etc., have been cancelled due to potential violence that may happen, and that's not right. Come on. I mean, yes, I'm not a fan of him. Personally, I don't like his opinions, but those are his opinions. I want his voice to be heard because we need to listen to both sides. We can't just turn a blind eye, cause our ears to be deaf and just not hear whatsoever. You know? Because think of it this way, if proud supporters of Milo, right, are seeing that he's not allowed to speak, then they're just gonna get angry. It's the same as, for example, I don't know, Bernie Sanders, if he has... Imagine, let me tell you this, imagine if Bernie Sanders got revolt, absolute revolt, from not being able to do a seminar speech. Yeah? Because right-wing groups are crowding around, inciting violence and such. Isn't that the same thing? Sure, Bernie Sanders' views are a lot more akin to my personal views, but you need to think of the bigger picture here. The bigger picture being that, while yes, Milo needs to face the consequences for his actions, and the consequences are that he's going to face a revolt. But, and I mean this honestly, if you silence people, like the right have silenced the left for so long, then they're going to have a revolt. If you then try and flip it around, then it's going to turn into anarchy. And that's not the right way to go about it. We need more debates, more chats, right? Because we need to let the whole world speak, okay? The whole world needs to speak to one another. If you were to divide and silence people, then we are all bad people, in my opinion. Because free speech is free speech. That is my opinion. Free speech is free speech. Whether it's right or wrong, let them speak. We're in a flippin' social media age, right? Yeah, we are in a social media age, and all of us, we are far more glued in and far more tied in what is going on, and we can filter out the media, what they're saying, and we can find out ourselves if we know the right sources. But please, I'm being honest with you, please just consider it. Just consider, don't incite violence. Don't say, oh, I'm going to punch this, punch that, right? I see justification in doing it, but it doesn't help things in the long run, okay? I'll also say this in addition, though. Impressions on social media is very important. And while all of us are talking about Trump and Milo Yiannopoulos, there is a big massive problem with that. Social media impressions means that if you were to type in Trump, right, and that shows up 1,000,000 times, then you know who profits? Twitter and Trump. Because all the traffic is talking about Trump, and due to social media impressions, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or social media, the pocket will eventually go to Trump because he's generating the news, he's generating the buzz, right? Yeah? And that's how it works in the business industry. This is how it works. Yeah, this is absolutely remarkable and absolutely true. So yeah, these are absolute facts, and you lot need to be open to realizing this, right? Because, perfect example, WWE, there are so many fans against and for it. But if you're going to complain about WWE, WWE are happy of the fact that, yeah, you are talking about it. And therefore they're going to get more money in their pockets. Sure, I'm not telling you to not talk about it, not talk about them, because that way your voice is silent. But what I'm saying to you is that I say you need to all, like, peaceful protest, absolutely fine. Protest, please protest. Make your mark, grow the numbers, make your voices loud and proud, but be mindful of how they're making their money. And also, please do not incite violence, please, because violence is never the answer. Welcome back to DRAYZERA Uncensored, and we've got a special guest today, and this is an ultimate special guest. I met this person in Korea. I can now say she's a good friend of mine. Welcome, the Japanese translator extraordinaire, Carly Radford. Woo! Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Woo! Right. The reason why I've got you on the show is because, well, me and you have had various amazing conversations about Japan, and you, as someone that's been to Japan for many, many, many times and many, many, many years, you can literally talk about Japan and break down the stereotypes and literally cut away all the bullshit people say about Japan in the sense of, yeah, well, Japan is like the anime capital and all that kind of stuff. You follow me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you follow me. I have to tell you right now, Carly is in her studio, and you know, to have her is literally the equivalent of trying to book David Beckham. I literally went arm and leg to get her. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, I've got some questions here. So, one of the questions that I've got for you is, why do people feel that Japan has a massive anime culture? Well, in all honesty, it's more niche than the Western world. That's my question to you. What's your response?
I don't think it's quite as niche as you're thinking. I think the thing with anime in Japan is that it's quite widespread in the fact that most people will be reading manga and will watch like anime shows, but there aren't that many obsessive fans. You get like the odd otaku, but they're not as, you know, I think maybe it's a bit bigger than here, but the scene is actually not really that huge. It's more casual fans. Most people will have seen the sort of Shonen Jump staple shows. Most people have seen manga series. Most people would have grown up with it, but it's not really sort of nothing to really get obsessed about.
I follow you. And just to elaborate, do you feel that, so as a result, do you feel that the Western fans are far more hardcore in general than, let's say, Japanese fans? Because you mentioned casual fans, right? So, obviously, the fans that I know, the dozens and bazillions of times I've been to MTM Expo, the exes that I've had, I feel that there are far more hardcore fans. Like, can you elaborate on this?
Well, I think it's probably around the same level. I mean, you get hardcore Japanese fans as well, and then if you go to any big event in Japan, like sort of comic conventions and things, I can't remember the names, but if you go, you'll see sort of the same thing in Japan. But again, it's more of a casual thing, and you just get like that sort of, you know, that little group who think it, I'd like to say a bit too far, but they get really into it, and yeah, it's not. I think a lot of the misconception that foreign people, well, I say foreign people, non-Japanese people tend to have about the anime scene in Japan is that everyone loves anime, everyone loves manga, when in fact it's really not very much of conscious kind of love. It's kind of something that's in the background a lot, but no one's really gonna freak out about it that much.
Well, to be fair, more people love solitaire. Have you seen those trains? Like, have you noticed that on the trains in Japan? Like, because I've been to Japan once. On the trains, I've seen people play solitaire, and so much solace. No lies. Like, I have never seen so much people playing solitaire on their phones.
Yeah, I've actually not seen that much, but I don't think.
Or line games.
Yeah, I think a lot of people play the games online and things.
Line, by the way, for all our non-Japanese listeners, is basically their version of WhatsApp slash a sort of Facebook Messenger kind of game. Is that what you say?
Yeah, basically. I think I see a lot of people play things like is that Clash of Clans?
Oh yeah, oh my god, Clash of Clans is like dedication of Clash of Clans, like trains.
Yeah, so many people that play those games. Pokemon Go was huge as well over the summer. I was on a few trains and it was just every time it cleared my shoulder, someone was playing Pokemon Go. And even during the winter when it kind of died down over here, people still enjoying it over there.
Man, mental. Right, here's a topic that's very close to your heart, or maybe close to the heart of various people traveling to Japan. Now, one misconception or conception is that people in the Western world, they come into Japan, and a lot of the reason why they come in there and they buy the cosmetics in Japan, go, oh my god, this is amazing, all the face masks, all the beauty treatments and all that stuff. However, we've had a discussion off air about your opinions on the cosmetic industry. And the question to you is, are Japanese cosmetics better than Western cosmetics? Carly.
No. But then I'm biased because I love a lot of Western cosmetics brands. But I would say if you're looking for sort of a big Asian cosmetics market, it's really South Korea that's the big one. It's not Japan. They have a few really good brands. Shiseido is quite popular, Shu Uemura and RMK, those kinds of brands, but they're just not. For me personally, the quality is not really as good as the higher end brands in the West. Personally, I just prefer Western brands, and also I factor in the colours are more made for my skin. They're more in line with sort of Western trends. So the cosmetics, the makeup and cosmetics in Japan and Korea, like the style is very different to what you get in the West, and as such the products are sort of tailored more to those audiences. So for me, like there's just nothing really that sort of attractive about it.
I will mention though that you mentioned South Korea. Now you're saying that South Korean makeup industry, the cosmetics industry in South Korea, is a billion times better than Japan. Is that what you're trying to
I'd say it's probably a billion times bigger.
Bigger.
The cosmetics industry there is huge, and all the big Asian brands, or most of the big Asian brands, are South Korean brands, not really Japanese brands. And you get a few that's sort of broken into sort of Western mainstream cosmetics, but like South Korean, Korean makeup's really got sort of a whole sort of cult following of its own. And I would, if I was to pick sort of an Asian country, sort of Asian cosmetic brands, that's where I would look.
I mean, the interesting thing is that I'm just throwing out there on this point, which I think is going to tie into a future question we're going to have. But a lot of people go to there to try on their makeup in order to maybe look not essentially like maybe a weeaboo, quote unquote, or an anime character, let's say, but you know the saying, if you want to look Japanese, you try Japanese things.
If you want to look Japanese, you should probably be born an Asian, to be honest.
Oh, shots fired.
it's just fact. No amount of makeup is really going to make you look Japanese unless you try it really hard, and then it's just a bit weird, really.
Have you known people, by the way, that tried cosmetic surgery to look Japanese? I mean, from your experience.
No, I've never met anyone that's really gone that far.
Or heard?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you see a lot of cosplayers sort of try and even cosplayers don't really get that close to sort of Japanese look because they're cosplaying anime and game characters which are based on Western faces. So it's not really a thing. I mean, I will say that maybe the reason that you've heard so many people go over to Japan and search out cosmetics is because of the fetishization of anything Japanese, like anything Japanese to be really good quality, which isn't always true, frankly.
I mean, if they were to get cosmetics from the 100 yen store, well,
well, you get what you pay for.
indeed, yeah. Just so you know, for all those that don't know currency, 100 yen will always be less than £1, or if you're from America, less than $2. Yeah, well, I think we've beaten cosmetics out of the bush. Very interesting question that I'm sure various people that have been to Japan, struggled in Japan, like certain people that I will not mention. Why do foreigners find it hard to settle in Japan?
Well, I think Japanese society and Western society is very different. On the surface, it looks
Hmm.
quite similar. Well, I say quite similar. It's a distinct sort of Japanese flavor, but it does seem quite similar. And people just sort of assume that they can assimilate, but like under sort of that surface, there's a lot of sort of more. It's kind of hard to describe. It just smaller things it's just you know. I can't really think of a good example right now, but I would say that like a lot of social interactions, a lot of expectations are different in Japan. There's sort of a lot of things to get your head around. Like something that I wouldn't consider rude may be rude in Japan. Something that Japanese people do that I would consider rude is to them. And I think like until you've been there for a while, you can't really pick up on it a lot of the time.
One thing that is interesting that I will add to this is, well, do you feel that maybe one of the reasons that could be a problem for foreigners going to Japan is that now I've noticed that especially around Tokyo, there's the expat community areas,
Yeah.
and one of the problems that I find is these people that go to Japan, they tend to migrate or like hang out with people that are English speaking but not Japanese natives. Therefore, there is a huge lack of integration process. Therefore, how they're really getting a proper flavor of Japanese life, because yeah, you can check out the temples, you can check out the sakura petals and all that stuff, but you're not really going to get a flavor of Japanese culture unless you properly interact with Japanese people.
Well,
Would you agree with me here? Or?
yeah, I mean, the thing is, a lot of people that go over to Japan are doing so without sort of going into a job that requires Japanese. So a lot of people will be going in the military. If you're American, there's a JET program, which is basically teaching English in Japan, but you don't need any Japanese qualifications. There's most people going through the English teaching route, and you basically don't need Japanese. And the amount of foreigners that I know and the amount that can't speak Japanese is too high. But it's difficult to put the find the time to learn a new language. Although I think if you're there for any extended period of time, then
you should at least try. I mean, end of the day, no matter what country you're in, and if people know you're trying to speak Japanese, they tend to be more helpful than not. Am I correct?
Yeah, but the other thing you have to realize is that some days you just don't really want to. If you can't speak Japanese or you don't have much experience with it, some days you just want to speak English with English people or Western people. It's just easier. So that's people tend to sort of group together and.
So you're sort of like balancing it out with the opposite view. So you're sort of like giving justification as to why people tend to migrate to the expat communities.
Yeah, I mean I can see why people do it, and sometimes I have days where I can speak Japanese fluently, but sometimes I want to hang out with Western people because they think the same way that I do, and they're more similar to me. It's easier to hang out with them.
While I do feel you are justified in your point, and to an extent I agree, but I'm talking about the general point of if you're going to continuously just talk to expats and people that are just English speaking, that can't speak Japanese. I mean, for me, I'll give you some examples. Like for me, I tried my damn best to. Like my Japanese is limited at best, but I tried to A, speak Japanese, and B, just communicate with the general Japanese public. You've seen it yourself.
Yeah, you were there for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Someone who's there for 2 years, say, and doesn't have a good grip of Japanese, which they should be learning, but it takes time.
Okay. All right.
You don't want to be having sort of only basic level conversations. You don't want to be having what is your name kind of level conversations for the whole 2 years. You're going to want something deeper. You want a deeper connection with people, and that's why people tend to gravitate towards the expat communities, because they can have, while they work on gaining these language skills and making Japanese friends, which is a lot harder than what you might expect, especially when you're working. It's not like if you're at university or school, it's quite easy, but when you're working, you don't really have that much time to go out and socialize and find Japanese friends. And you want to be, if when you hang out with them, you're only speaking at like a child level, it's great and it's tiring. You just want to speak to someone as an adult.
So would you say on this point then, on this general point about foreigners struggling to live in Japan, do you feel that before people want to migrate to Japan, I mean, for me, you are right. If I'm going to be in Japan for 2 weeks, it's kind of like me doing the best energy I can in communicating. But then after 2 weeks, I don't need to think about it anymore. Whereas people that are going to be there for a indefinite period of time, at least a year, 2 years, etc., do you think they need to really knuckle down in learning good Japanese before going there? Because it's kind of like feeling as if that they're only there with one shotgun shell, and therefore with that one shotgun shell, one shot, and then done. They're empty in ammo.
The conundrum is, if you really want to get good at a language, you need to be immersed in it, and to do that, you need to go to Japan, which means you need to be kind of crap at it before you go.
Walk before you can talk, basically.
The only way you're going to get better is by being immersed in it.
And from your experience, is that how you improve?
Yeah, I learned at university, and I've been learning through work and everything like that. But yeah, the most Japanese I learned was just from talking with my friends and watching movies, listening to music, and that's how you keep language up. It's really hard to just learn language from a textbook. You need to have it around you, and that's just not possible for a lot of people in the UK.
Especially the other way around. I mean, I saw, by the way, off topic slightly, English textbooks written by Japanese people.
That doesn't sound very good.
Definitely. Oh my god! Like some of the examples, they showed it on YouTube. By the way, disclaimer: these are completely my opinions. Kai may not necessarily share my opinions. Yes. There was this textbook, right, where they're basically Japanese, like written in all English, like examples of sentences, and some of the grammar is, let's just say, it's not that correct.
Yeah, I mean the translators is kind of frustrating for me a lot of the time. But you will get a lot of Japanese people who seem to think because they know a bit of English, they can suddenly write perfect grammar, and it's not often perfect. I mean, that's true for every language. If you're not a very sort of bilingual or a native speaker, when you translate into your target language, it's not going to be perfect, because you're just not going to have the same sense of the language as a native person would, so it's always going to sound a bit off.
Oh, I see. Yeah, fair enough. I suppose for me, being bilingual myself, because I can speak 2 languages, I feel that I think for me, one thing that I will say was a benefit for me going to Japan. Okay, yes, you're right. 2 weeks, whatever. I'll hold my hand up. 2 weeks is not like me going through World War One or World War Two. It's just me like dropping off a parachute and go bye. But yeah, I mean for me, I felt that in terms of Japanese mannerisms, it wasn't too dissimilar to maybe Bangladeshi mannerisms. Not too dissimilar. Because I'm just saying Asian culture has a general kind of, in essence, a sort of bubble within itself, because Asian countries, they're Asian for a reason. I'm not trying to group them all together, but certain Asian mannerisms and traditions are there for a reason, and I find that I'm using the experience based on how my parents act is not too far away from from Japanese mannerisms, and yeah, I suppose it's my opinion. I guess to be fair, it's scary. I mean, going to Japan, hell, even at times for me, even though I was having the time of my life, there were some points where I'm like, oh shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you probably had some of those oh shit moments while in Japan, like at some points.
Yeah, I've had a few.
Indeed. Well, I think we've beaten around the bush with the foreigner topic. I mean, remember, people, if you want to send in any questions, please comment below on the podcast. Comment on comment on the YouTube. Yeah, comment anywhere. Literally comment, and we will answer your questions. Carly's more than happy to answer, as long as it's not a random rant by. Yeah, I'll say no more. Right, and the next question is, what is the celebrity culture like in Japan, aka, for example, worshipping of their idols, and do you feel Westerners could potentially be part of the problem?
Um, I don't really know how to answer that because you obviously get massive, mega crazy fans, and I
Hmm.
think you get those anywhere, to be honest. But there is quite I would say Japanese artists. I got a lot of experience with the music industry in Japan more than anything else, so that's
Hmm.
what I'll kind of base my answer on. Um,
Yeah.
I would say that Japanese artists are marketed very heavily, like more so than Western artists. Like even including bands like One Direction, you get the Japanese equivalent of something like One Direction, they'll be marketed far more, and they'll be like
Johnny's
everywhere.
West.
Yeah, I mean they'll be used to promote everything. They'll be used to they'll just appear everywhere. They'll be on
Mm.
posters and buses and trains.
Oh yeah.
You just know escaping. You look at bands like Arashi, and it's just like, well, might be an old example, but you can't.
Arashi are still big. Arashi are
Yeah, I
still
know,
like.
but you couldn't escape them for a while. AKB all
Oh
over
my
the
god,
train. Chani
AKB48.
Fami Fami Yoshida everywhere. It's just kind of like it's just hammered
Hmm.
in so
Hmm.
hard on all the TV shows and everything,
Hmm.
and it's not surprising that people get so sort of attached to them. And you have to,
Immersed.
yeah, you get sort
Overly
of,
immersed.
yeah, maybe, but it's just. I mean, I'm sure you get people like this in the
Hmm.
West. It's not just a uniquely Japanese phenomenon.
Well, I can show you a personal example. Now, as you know, for all the listeners that don't know this, myself and my then friend, then also ex-girlfriend Angelica, we went to see Johnny's West live in Sendai, Miyagi. Oh man, that was so fun. The gig, that was decent. The gig was decent, it was entertaining, but oh my god, the fans at the end, it was so crazy. Did I tell you this? So, what happened was is that at the end, the confetti like shot out and like sprinkled down,
Mm.
and my days, the female fans are all clawing and grabbing as many, and they're like hitting, not borderline hitting and smacking each other very violently and grabbing as much confetti as possible in terms of, yeah, the more confetti, the more bigger fan I am kind of thing.
Well, I think one thing about Japan is it's very group orientated. It's very collectivist, and I think if you get a group of people uh, into a band or
Yeah,
into an artist,
yeah.
then it tends to sort of escalate,
Mm,
and you get sort of that sort of rabid behaviour. I'm
mm,
not saying it doesn't happen here, but that's kind of how I feel about it.
mm,
But at the same time, like it's been it depends on sort of the type of artist as well because I go to a lot of sort of more rock and punk gigs and it's
mm.
never really been too bad.
I think,
But I would think that's probably more to do with
the genre.
the genre and the
Mm,
types of fans. We're talking mostly sort of teenage 20, 30
mm,
year old, mostly men with
mm,
a few women.
mm,
Um, so it's not quite as
mm.
um, I don't want to say like it's all women being sort of like my favorite band. It's people are just a bit more cool about it.
Or would you say that I'm not going to try and shoot it off on an anti-feminist point, or a sexist point, but are you implying potentially, and be careful with the answer. I don't want to like jeopardize anything. Do you feel that women may be worse fans than men, and or is it more the fact that because the boy groups are so marketed in such a way, and the girl groups as well, girls really fancy
Mm.
like I have quite a few Filipino friends that really get over obsessed over AKB48.
I mean that the thing with artists that are very managed, and you're talking about a lot of idol groups, and so
Hmm.
the image is completely it's really manufactured all the way through. And
Hmm.
one of the key things is having them sort of attainable, yet unattainable. So
Hmm.
they're not allowed to date,
Oh
for
yeah.
example,
Oh
or they're
yeah.
not allowed. Yeah, if they get caught in a scandal, it's pretty big news.
Oh
And
man.
this
Oh.
could just be going on a date with someone. I mean, look at
Well, we're talking about the AKB48 member that had to shave their head.
well, yeah, and
Oh
she was
man.
just caught coming out of her boyfriend's house. It wasn't really a big thing, and she had to shave her head in shame, and it was just ridiculous. But you know,
But it made big news. It was
well,
big
yeah,
news
but at the
everywhere.
same time, she's probably thinking, well, I'm losing my management company money because I'm tarnishing the image of our band. Because
Mm.
you know, if I have a boyfriend, maybe people will go off me, and then people won't buy as many singles or
Mm.
CDs. And
I mean, the AKB48 this is ridiculous. I mean, for all those that don't know, yes, AKB48 is a 48 member
it's ridiculous.
female group, and it's some sort of academy system where some people get demoted, some people move on, some people just get elected. It's almost borderline boardroom level nonsense, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of a cult of all its own. It's honestly, it's ridiculous. Like I just don't understand it. That's one of the things I don't understand.
Mm. And also, if we're, it's maybe not on the question, but on the point of AKB48, do you feel that female artists are heavily pressured into looking a certain image and being a certain body shape? Because I've noticed all of AKB48, their waist sizes are all very similar, their body shapes are all quite similar, there aren't really that much variation. Whereas I know that in Japan, females tend to not have such body variations, alright? Which we'll probably get on to in the next question, but do you feel that because of the manufacturedness, let's say for example, certain members of AKB4, not all of them, like 20 of them may look very similar or the same?
Well, there's a few things you have to consider. First thing is that Japan is such a homogeneous,
Homogeneous.
homogeneous,
Homogeneous.
homogeneous
So
country.
much word.
It's such a
Yeah.
homogeneous country that
Yeah.
you know you're not going to get that many body types because everyone's got the same kind of body, to be honest.
Mm. And
And
also,
same hair, same eye color, same hair color, same skin color. Well, the skin color varies a little, tiny bit, but not that much.
and also on your point that just crossed my mind because of the fact there's so lack of cultural, like different cultural crossbreeding kind of thing with say for example there's so little of, let's say, white people or people of my ethnicity or people of the Caribbean, African ethnicity, etc., etc., etc. Because of that, if Japanese people are like having babies are all just Japanese, then there tends to be the DNA tends to stay very like similar.
Yeah. But I would say that there are more interracial babies being born, especially lately. But and the other thing is, I said earlier, Japan's a very collectivist country. It works as a group fashion. Not everyone follows the same fashion, but a good chunk of people look exactly the same. Dress exactly the same kinds of hairstyles, same kinds of makeup styles, and not really that much variation, I would say, compared to other countries.
And you mentioned collectivism. Something just crossed my mind. When it came to groups, idol groups, especially AKB48, a lot of their videos they all dress the same. So that sort of atones to your collectivist point.
Maybe. I would say that there's a bit of a lot of uniforms are very popular in Japan.
Oh man, like in animes, how many times have I seen the Japanese schoolgirl uniform? Oh my days.
It looks a lot less sexy in real life.
Oh man, yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that on the way on trains in Japan. Like, yo man, oh goodness, why is it so less promiscuous? Oh, I wonder why.
So then, anime is just a media, like a artistic medium.
Oh yeah.
It's just not. It's not real, and a lot of people come to Japan thinking Japan's going to be just like that. So no, it's not. It's a very what's the word? It's kind of people make it better than it is in their head.
Oh yeah. But do you think it's also partly Japan's fault in the sense that they market it as a kind of like fantasy paradise, which, to be fair, Akihabara is probably the closest it is to what they're sort of marketing towards. But Akihabara, for all those that don't know your maps of Japan, Akihabara is probably the tiny section of Tokyo which attains to the kind of fan base. And to a much smaller extent, maybe Shibuya, but it's more Akihabara that we're talking about. Would you say? Like Shibuya, Akihabara is probably the equivalent of, I don't know, a small area of London.
That's like Escanaba, it's kind of like Camden.
Camden, yeah. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. Right, now this next topic was a very interesting topic, and I sort of have an opinion of this. Is it incorrect to think that Japanese people are healthy in both eating and lifestyle? Because there's the statistics of mortality, like higher living age standard. However, the amount, oh my days, the amount of food that I have seen in Japan, I'm like, man, I thought we were unhealthy.
Well, I think what sort of brings the life expectancy number up in Japan is country living. People living in the country are very healthy, especially down in Okinawa. Like their diet is very good, and yeah, I guess you could compare it to the Mediterranean in Europe. Like, people just tend to have better diets, so it's quite long. But you know, in the cities, everything is processed. It's really not that healthy I think you really have to try to be healthy if you live in a city in Japan. But at the same time, I think healthier foods are quite popular still. So a lot of households as well, the mums stay at home, so they've got time to cook a proper home cooked meal, and the school lunches are much healthier as well. So the kids are getting sort of healthy food, so it sort of encourages them to choose healthier options in later life as well. But they're also very busy, so they will often get food from the convenience store, which is packed with all sorts of additives.
That Lawson man,
Or they'll go to a ramen restaurant or something quick, and they'll eat that, and that's going to have tons of oil in. I mean, Japanese people consume a lot of oil, a lot of salt, really quite a lot of salt.
Even with the healthier diet.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if it's related, but Japan has like very high incidence of stomach cancer, so you know, I'm not sure if that has anything to do with the diet, but
that should be linked. You would think it would be linked.
Yeah, you would think it would be linked, but it's just such a crazy high salt intake. It's not, and fried foods as well. Fried foods are everywhere.
Oh man, yakinikus. All the man just fried everything, remarkable. It's crazy.
Yakiniku is cooked, but
Okay, granted. Sorry, I did act dumb there. That was a dumb point, but
if you have like there's a lot of fried chicken. You think about izakaya food as well, so bar food, not really that healthy. Yeah, I'm actually shocked that there aren't that many fat Japanese people. But yeah, there are more and more.
They're getting there. Come on.
They're getting there.
Hashtag we need more fat Japanese people.
But I also think people are more aware of sort of their weight, and I mean, the other thing about Japan as well, I keep coming back to this collective mentality, but it's very important. It's different to how we are in the West. We're more individual in the West. Japan's more of a group thing.
Yeah.
And you don't really want to stick out. So if you think, oh no, I'm putting on quite a lot of weight here, you're far more likely to try and shed it. If you're thinking, oh, my peers are gonna judge me. And the other thing is that like diets and things are pushed to girls very early on. Magazines all about dieting, and on TV it's like get this body by doing this. It's kind of I think it's a little bit more active. That seems a little more active than it is here.
Is it far more? Are you saying it's far more pressure for women to be healthy? Because I feel men.
There is more pressure for women in Japan than there is here. I think what people don't realise about women in Japan is that people say they're very pretty and they've always got perfect hair, perfect makeup.
The question is, are they?
Well, some of them are, but I mean, people really. I feel in Japan as well, I feel very pressured to look my best. Here in the UK, I wouldn't really have any qualms about going to the supermarket without any makeup on.
I mean, because most people don't care.
No, no one's going to really give you a second glance. If I'm just going to the supermarket, then I'm not going to bother. But if I'm in Japan, I'm like, well, I feel like people are judging me, and I feel like if I don't look good, then people are going to judge me for it.
Something just crossed my mind in this. So remember when we talked about the whole cosmetic thing? Do you think that maybe people go to Japan for cosmetics, but then also think to themselves, well, if we use Japanese cosmetics, we might be judged less. I'm just throwing that out there.
No, not really. I don't really agree with that.
Hmm.
I think people who go to use Japanese cosmetics are probably sort of fans of Japan and they just think acting Japanese is better. There's probably some of that work. Probably just Asian makeup trends in general, because it plays to different trends. But I wouldn't say it's for that reason.
I see. Well, I have to say, we have one final question, as I feel that this question is very interesting. Is it incorrect to say that Japanese technology is advanced? And before you answer, let's elaborate here. Before I went to Japan, and before I met you, I had the utopia thinking, oh my god, Japan's gonna have all this wacky, awesome technology of all the bullet trains are everywhere, but then you realise they are very shoddy trains, and also there's going to be amazing, the buildings are going to look all futuristic, but then I went to the police station in Shinjuku, and I realised that that police station was literally a markup of 1970s cop films. I'm like, what the hell? Like, it felt so ancient, etc., etc. So, question to you. Is it incorrect to say that Japanese technology is advanced? Yes or no?
Yes and no, I think. I think people expect it to be more advanced than it is. I mean, I think Japanese tech tends to be more advanced, more sort of efficient. Maybe not efficient. In what's the word?
Where
Innovative.
innovative, okay.
Japanese people are very good at taking products that exist and making them better.
Like for example, the Walkman. The Walkman was a great device, and the Casio calculators, were they made by Japan?
I don't know.
I see, okay.
But I would say Japan's more of an innovator than a creator, and I mean.
Didn't they create? They did create the PlayStation.
Yeah, but you know, American companies have been making games consoles for a lot longer, and
So you're saying that what you're saying is that, say, I don't know, the Atari Japanese? I don't remember. Atari sounds like a Japanese word, doesn't it?
it sounds like a Japanese word, but I thought it was different.
Okay, so basically, American game developers, right? You're saying that Sony, potentially, not saying they have, but potentially may have been inspired, and Nintendo was around before PlayStation. Oh yeah, the Sony, yeah. But American games been around still longer.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say Nintendo got inspired, and then Nintendo innovated their own ideas, and then Sony's like,
Nintendo used to be a watch company.
Really?
Yeah.
They
used
what?
To make watches.
I did not know that. This is revelation. No. Like, I literally went to the Nintendo Switch event the other week, and I think about it and go, why do I see no watch?
I'm pretty sure that's true. I think they used to be watchmakers, and then they.
Yeah, you can Google it while we can carry on this chat. So yeah, bullet trains. Yeah, they're great. They're amazing. The bullet trains are great, but a lot of other train services, even though they're decent in Tokyo, but if you go out of areas, trains aren't that great, and certain Tokyo lines are kind of, well, not that great.
Well, they're very old. They've been around for a long time. It's the same with the London Underground. Like, you know, Central Line's kind of shit, and the District Line's kind of crap, but they're old lines. They've been around forever.
Whereas the DLR is far more new, innovative. The new was it the Elizabethan line, or I can't remember the name.
I can't remember.
Yeah, but the new line's going to be like innovative kind of thing. So when you say on the no point, do you just feel that people need to not get the hopes about Japanese technology?
No, you shouldn't get your hopes about Japanese technology, because basically it's appliances, yes, very, but again, not advanced, innovative. They have more features. They have features. Japanese people are very good at taking something and make it better, make it so it serves people better. But
yeah.
I mean, Japan still uses fax machines.
Oh my god, yes. I was thinking to myself, who uses fax? Why?
Yeah, they still use fax machines. There's still a lot of people don't have sort of
Mm,
PC internet, just using it on their phones.
mm,
Just stuff like that. I would say it's really, apart from big companies and big cities, it's not that
mm,
technologically advanced.
mm,
It's all right. It's not the future though.
mm. One country I will say that is potentially the future, which I compare, like, I don't know how much you know about China, but China, right, it's different in China, because in China, they want to build something, they just do it now. It's not all this random bureaucracy we have, let's say, in England, where, oh, we're going to build this random high-speed rail, HS2. Yeah, alright, we'll do it. Yeah, we will do it. China like, oh, screw it, I'm just going to do it now. Literally, like, all those those skyscraper rebuildings, they just go up, like, out of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
absolutely mental. Would you say that Japan, are they fast in upgrading? Or are they just, or is it one of those where if they really have to, they do it? If they don't have to, they're like, we'll save some money.
I don't know. I think the buildings all seem pretty damn old.
Mm,
Apart from sort of big new projects like department stores and things.
mm, I follow you. I follow you. I follow you. Well, all right. I'll tell you what. So, all right. To close this off, you're gonna take the mic. In our swanky studio that we're in right now.
To my living room.
Your very swanky studio right now. Let's
I'm still trying to find if Nintendo made watches. So far, I haven't found anything about the watches, but they did make Hanafuda cards, which are
interesting. Well, I was just gonna say, we could still find it quickly, but I'll tell you this: 3 things for people to take away from this about Japan. Go, say anything you want to mention about Japan, like saying any advice or just things to point out about Japan. 3 things off the top of your head.
Oh god. First one, Japan is not some magical motherland. People
Even
just
though I got that Rabbit Island.
yes, the Rabbit Island is admittedly cool, but if you're going there expecting sort of high quality, high tech anime lifestyle, you're going to be disappointed.
Jetson's life.
Second is a lot of people go to Japan expecting that they're just going to sort of fit right in. So that'd be another negative one, but the Japanese way of thinking and the Western way of thinking is actually quite different and not on sort of levels you'd expect anymore. How we communicate with each other and how we interact with other people. So it is a bit difficult, and there is, I think, traditional Westerns might have trouble integrating. Not that it's not impossible, but it takes a while.
Yeah.
Definitely takes a while. And the third one is that I think I should end on something positive, because something quite negative in the interview, and obviously I like to find keep going back.
I mean, and Japan loves you enough for you to be a keen business entrepreneur in Japan.
Not really entrepreneur, I'm just a freelancer, but
A freelance entrepreneur.
I'm not sure if you can.
Just, like, I'm trying to big you up here, right?
Okay.
Alright.
I'm still trying to think of a good thing. Good thing about Japan. The food's pretty good.
Oh shit. Oh, something to also say. Expect a more 24/7 lifestyle, more every.
Oh yeah, it's far more convenient than
oh
here.
man.
24/7, lots of 24/7.
Oh my days, like for example, Lawson, 7-Eleven, Family Mart. My days, it's literally 24 hours a day, so they don't never shut.
Yeah, I mean,
What is shutting?
I mean, if you're stuck outside at night, there's always something you can be doing.
Like karaoke till 5 a.m. and you have your own personal booth.
Karaoke, bars, convenience stores, restaurants. Yeah, you can just keep going till morning. So that's a great thing. Except I wish the trains sort of corresponded as well.
Oh yeah.
But, unfortunately, it's not to be.
Indeed, it's not to be. Actually, just so I can I'm going to close on something very random that I just thought of my head, and then we're going to cut it off. I know this was meant to be a 25-minute chat, but we've gone over for about 43 minutes.
No, I could have talked for ages.
We could, but it just shows you, man, like we're doing quality and quantity, so they can have more sound bites and more love bites. And that was so terrible. But yes,
That was horrific.
that was horrific, but terrific. But okay, so I had this random situation in I think it was in either Osaka or Tokyo. I can't remember which place. Probably it was Osaka. So I randomly went to this like fun place, random fun place, and I went inside. This is what you know where I'm going with this. So I went in and said, right, what is this? And I asked them stuff like, you are 18 plus?
Not Soapland, was it?
Huh?
Was it Soapland?
I can't remember what the name was specifically. But I said, no, yes, I am. And then I said, you got money. You basically is one of those places where, yeah, you get lap dances and all that stuff.
Oh, okay, not quite as bad as Soapland.
Right, what is Soapland?
It's basically a brothel.
Brothel, baby.
But I think it's kind of it's just different enough for a brothel to be legal.
Oh right.
I think it might be something to do with there are a lot of you can take a bath with a pretty girl.
Oh right.
At least I think that's right. I've translated a lot of porn about Soapland.
Woo! Oh man, they just love the porn industry.
The porn industry is huge in Japan. We should do the next podcast about the porn industry in Japan. I can tell you all about that.
Screw it. You know what, right? Because by popular request, on the next episode of DRAYZERA Uncensored, we will have Carly again, and we'll talk about the porn industry. Damn straight. Alright, so anyway, on that note, and I can't believe we ended it on that note, thank you very much, Carly, for your time. Thank you very much for inviting me in your wondrous studio, also living room.
Well, I wasn't going to leave you on the street, was I?
Enough about that.
Because
anyway.
somebody can't book accommodation properly.
Well, thank you very much, Carly. I think we should have a
Okay.
Thanks. Moonlight Army, thank you very much for the one and only Carly Radford for the awesome interview. I am now back at home. This podcast I have shot in 3 locations. How mad is that? Anyway, let's get to the Poetry in Bed PIB Poem of the Week. And we have got Alison Jones with Snowflakes. And when I read this as an instant reaction, I haven't read this yet, let's get on with it. Snowflakes are an aggression of ice crystals, distilled through cold air falling to earth. Supercooled water droplets, needle column, plate, rhyme. It's about time we thought about their power. If they fall for an hour, everything stops. We can't cope. We're not prepared to be in an altered state, so their fate is to bring us to a standstill, make public transport late, a nightmare to navigate. Oh, you're right with that. Snowflakes make things tricky. They are not picky about where they land and stick. They only understand gravity and the ancientness of water that holds everything, all memories, and responses made at a molecular level. If we are 50% water, we all have snowflakes in us. Maybe crystals so ancient they fell on the dinosaurs, or fluttered towards the mud enduring a world war. To be a snowflake is to feel nature and be free of power. Nobody controls their fight. The sight of them may be beautiful, so soft and gentle, or a blizzard to block all other views, to void the landscape and shape it into something new. Poor little snowflake doesn't even make sense. There seems to be a pretense that holding your own views is indulgent where really it is intelligent. To ask why, to not bow down to those who have power, to hour by hour analyze the words of those who say they tell us truths, to ask for proofs behind the thinking. Once snowflakes land, they change, metamorphosize before our eyes into a snowpack, not meant for attack, for who feels threatened by happenstance, and this frost rhymes with time for change, electrostatic rage efficient, communication proficient, a scattering of light through facets, concerned with the assets of those who hold systems in place, seeking to trace, give name and face to conflicts of interest, to resist all that is unfair, to stare lies in the face, to question policies that lead to distance and despair. Snowflakes don't care about color and gender or race. If they fall, it is always with grace. their only purpose to face what will come, and winter is coming. Once a blizzard is started rather, it cannot be undone. Woo! What a poem by Alison Jones. And you know what? Just a quick recap. It just shows you, like, she uses a simple concept like snowflakes, then she extrapolates it to life, how the world is at a standstill, traffic, which is a big bloody issue in this country, UK, probably worse so in China, but anyway, but yeah, it's just so beautiful. It's just so elegantly done, has a nice flow to it. It definitely made me feel more excited about snow, even though I couldn't give a toss about the winter, to be fair. But anyway, Moonlight Army, thank you very much for another episode of DRAYZERA Uncensored, and thank you, Alison Jones, for Snowflake. I will give you a link if she has one. I'll ask her if she has anything to share. Anyway, thank you very much, and that has been DRAYZERA, and I shall zera later. Out to flash you all uncensored, DRAYZERA Uncensored. DRAYZERA Uncensored!